Playing against Yorion the Sky Nomad. If this is 4-color Ephemerate they were playing against, that matchup's pretty good. I think it's a little slow, but we are on the play. And Yorion decks are also usually pretty slow. You know what? I think I'm going to kind of like... Maybe this is a little bit of a loose keep, but I'm going to keep. Just seeing the I don't think I would have kept if I didn't see the Yorion, but like their deck is just so slow. If it is the 4-color Ephemerate deck, it's also a pretty good matchup too. Could be the Rhinos deck though. I'm gonna try to Ephemerate the Mulldrifter next turn. Guess you're just playing your deck, questioning my 4 Leyline decision? Okay. I like the Leylines. So they're not Rhinos, they play the Growth Spiral. This is probably not resolving, but I think I'm supposed to fire it off anyways. Yeah. G Sums, 4 months, thank you so much. Your dog is nicknamed Bean Dog. I've been driving my wife saying it's too free for the bean. It's funny. Perfect. Alright, put 2 of these in the yard. Grief, pitch, Unmarked Grave, see what we're up against. Okay, so they have 2 Archmage's Charms, but they have no castable spells thanks to this very, very greedy copy of Basic Plains. I guess I'm just taking Solitude. Coach for the $10. Yeah, if you post a link in chat, I can't actually copy paste from this view, but thank you. Greedy, 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 greedy mana. Okay, so we're gonna bring in the 4th Teferi. We're gonna bring in the 4 Thoughtseizes. They cut the 4 Solitudes. Yeah, their graveyard hit is probably Endurance. Prismatic Ending can still deal with like Rin and 6. But it's probably the worst card in our deck. Should be fun. We've got Thoughtseize, Grief, Teferi for Endurance. Please read description. Played 50-player cash event on the weekend. This Elves deck went undefeated through the Swiss. Finished 2nd place in the finals, losing only to Murktide. The Grist is kind of cool. I mean, this is definitely like seems to be a relatively stock way to build elves. I like the Grist a lot. I'll say that. So we can keep this and discard an Archon on turn 1, and then turn 3 we've got Grief plus Persist. It's probably pretty good. Or good enough, I'll say. I haven't played a ton of elves recently, but I have played enough to know that this seems to be a very good and seemingly like well-tuned list. Just looking over the numbers, I'm not sure that there's anything I really dislike. I think 3 Sylvan Anthem might be like 1 copy too many. But especially like the lack of Lava Darts in the format, so there's not like too many pinging effects besides Ren and 6. But, you know, Sylvan Anthem plus Realm Walker is pretty powerful, and it could just be the fact that Sylvan Anthem is a card you're really always happy to draw multiples of, so I would just want to see some playtesting with that. But it would be my inclination to play, like, the 4th Dwynen's Lead over the 3rd Sylvan Anthem. But I really like the first copy of Grist. I like the extra Grist in the sideboard. You might even want to play more copies, like the 4th copy in the 75, maybe 2 in the main, if Murktide is a bad matchup. Like you said, they lost to it in the finals. I do think that that the Murktide decks would be a bad matchup for this archetype. So that's another inclination of mine. I'm not a big fan of Necromentia. There's also a card called Stain the Mind, which I tend to think, dude, they still can't cast Archmage's Charm. They still just can't cast Archmage this turn. What am I taking here? I guess I'm taking Typhoon. Yeah, I think Grista's very strong. I would be interested in seeing the 4th copy in the 75. Stain the Mind is a card I think I'd also rather see over over Necromancia. See, they got it. They did find a land. I'd probably play the 4th Endurance too. And then I also feel like you really need to have dude, the Druid Teferi, that's bad. This card Bolt, their hand is Reclamation, Archmage's Charm. I would say that you probably really need to have Force of Vigor in the sideboard of this deck too. So I can exile this. I think I'm just gonna evoke the Mulldrifter, and then I get to go from there. Not great draws. Yeah, so I would be playing Force of Vigor over Fracturing Gust and Reclamation Sage. I'd just be playing 4 of those. Like, your Hammer Time matchup's gonna be really tough without 4 Force of Vigor. Do you agree that Mars become just image 1 and image 2 set diversity? I guess I would somewhat agree with that. I don't know. It is not entirely the case. It's a little hyperbolic to say Modern is just image 1 and image 2. But it is definitely true. Like, these sets are incredibly format defining. And a lot of people seem to have a problem with the fact that Modern Image 1 and Image 2 are as format defining as they are. I personally don't really care because I feel like gameplay is really good right now, and that's all I personally do. They do Deluge too. We might lose this. I personally all I care about is how gameplay is. That is my only interest when it comes to the Modern format. I know that's not everybody's interest, but I think gameplay is really good, and so I don't really mind the Modern Horizon sets being as impactful as they are. And thank you, Mike, for the 3 months again. Any consideration brought back over Ephemerate so you can run main deck Chalice? Ephemerate's way better than brought back in this deck. It's way, way better. And then brought back is also really hard to cast being double white. Should Grief have been cast after reanimating Archon? Absolutely not. Yeah, we have to Grief first so that you can try to get a counterspell out of their hand. Yeah, this hand is super defined by Modern Horizons too. But it's also like the Reanimator archetype almost just didn't exist before Horizons 2, and I might be conceding in a second. But yeah, it's like if you look at my opponent's side of the field, not Modern Horizons 2, 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 not Modern Horizons, or any Horizon set. Yeah, so to say that it's all Image 2 is a little, or Image 1 is disingenuous, but it is definitely true that they are more format defining than a lot of people would like. And if you feel that way, then there's nothing wrong with feeling that way. It is what it is. Wait, where did my nice basics go? Skulkers, thank you for the 3 months. We got another deck tech. This just links to MTG Goldfish. You gotta. Oh, it's yeah. You mark the deck as private. Just whenever you get it ready, we'll take a look. All right, let's go to game 3. Yeah, the top deck Teferi was really good. Submit here. Yeah. I agree completely. Giving props to Modern Horizons 2. There's no ban from the set. It has really revitalized interest in the format. Gameplay is really good right now. I feel like Modern Horizons 2, while not a perfect set, and no set's a perfect set, was a very good, well designed. Oh, I don't have a black card to pitch to Grief. This hand's so close though. I think I'm gonna keep. This hand is so good if it draws any black card. Wrong wink. Okay. 4 color Rhinos. So it's my opinion that the best Rhinos deck right now is the 80 card version with Yorion. So I'm not sure why you're playing this 4 color variant and not playing Yorion unless it's like a budget consideration. But like Doomwake's 4 color version I think is just so good. Hold on. Yeah, I think Doomwake's 4 color version is really, really good. And it's just like you have a better ratio of like Cascaders to other spells in your deck. You're going to draw Crushing Footfalls less often. You get to play... Well, their hand is definitely soft to... Soft this. They missed on their land. Nexus of Fate, Endurance, Shark Typhoon. Guess I'm taking the Endurance. Weird game. But yeah, I feel like it's not budget. I have the 80 card version. I would recommend Doomwake's 80 card version. I think it's stronger than this. It's like you get access to not only like as your game one is as powerful, but like Yorion gives you so much access to grind against lock pieces and grind in the late game in general. It's something you're really incentivized to do. And I've been really impressed by the deck. That's the version I would recommend. I don't think I'd really change anything from Doomwake's list. I will say that if you're gonna play Rhinos, you need to play the full 4 copies of... Alright, so let's take the Teferi now, and then I guess we'll draw step Ephemerate 2. They did draw the land for the Reclamation. Bummer. Their hand's pretty shredded, though. And we're going to get to take their Nexus of Fate, and then they're going to be out of gas. Yeah, you need to play at least... You always need to play 4 Fire Ice and Rhinos. That card's really important. But I would recommend the 80 card version to you. And this version seems to just be a little bit worse. Okay, let's get an Archon of the Yard and see who top decks better. Weird game. Don't think I really honestly have anything else to say. Alright, they drew a spell. No! Come on. Opponent's top decks have definitely been good so far. And they're floating mana. Did they drew Deluge? Come on! Oh my gosh. Brutal. Brutal. Oh. Wow, our top decks are pretty good too, huh? Although they get to flashback Deluge. But one good top deck deserves another. Nexus of Fate should hit the graveyard. It didn't. It didn't hit the graveyard. Alright, that's pretty good too. What a swingy game. So they can flashback Deluge. Maybe they can find like Solitude, white card or something. I don't understand how they're playing Archmage's Charm. They're playing Stomping Ground, Temple Garden, Basic Plains, Basic Forest. I really don't like these Archmage's Charms or the mana base. Something's got to change, I think. Think you bad. Hey Archmage, how's it going? Yeah, we did 5-0 with Oswald. And then, oh, I can't remember their name. Contra Ego? They 5-0'd with a blue-white Oswald deck too yesterday. I saw it on Twitter. It was pretty cool. Yeah, sorry, Bada. You're Bada. Okay, they could have Veil of Summer the Archon trigger. I guess they don't know that they can do that. Yeah, I'll grief their last card. They could definitely have Solitude and not a white card. Woo! Wait, how did they have 3 cards in their hand? Because I thought they drew a land last turn and then they cast Deluge. How did they get a third card? Okay, man. Well, I successfully complained about my opponent's luck hard enough to win that match there. Do it. His hand's great. Yeah, I agree. There's like a huge correlation with complaining about my opponent's luck, or just maybe even in general in Magic complaining about your opponent's luck and winning anyways. Which is also a pet peeve of mine. Yeah, this hand is very good. What about a list running Grief, Solitude, Smallpox brought back? Well, playing all those creatures with Smallpox. Sorry, I bumped the mic button. I need to get a I had to stand for my old mic. Test. It says that I have audio, so am I being messed with at the moment? Two main deck copies of Endurance. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, my cable is broken. I've got electrical tape trying to hold it in place. Maybe I should just get a new mic. I heard it had a mono white artifact list I'd be interested in. Came to find it. Well, if you're ever interested in a list I have, you can type either !deck and navigate the Stream Decker. But I also posted it to Twitter if you can't figure out the Stream Decker. Maybe Stabcaster printing Crimson Vow. Maybe, yeah. Maybe. Okay, they let this happen. I'll just grab the other Endurance. Pass. How did I finish in the challenge? I won the whole thing. It was pretty cool. They got this on Stomping Ground? I guess that makes sense because of Liliana. They might have also drawn Red Source, right? I want your hair? Well, I am selling it, so if you stop at the merch store, you can buy a handful of my hair. Esther rips it out and then sells it in the merch store. And that's what I do instead of taking sponsorships. Okora with the 2-pack. Gifted subs for the W, thank you so much. Was my first challenge win. Yeah, it was my first challenge win. I've won some like PTQs and stuff, but and I've top 8'd a bunch of challenges, but I've never actually won. Yeah, I've got a gifted sub. They say thanks. All right. Looking for another Persist, but a Teferi is definitely something I'll take. Let's get a Swamp here. I don't know why it has this basic instead. Been pretty bad about having nice basics lately, I guess. Usually I pride myself on that fact. Do you think El should run Nykthos? No, I don't. I think that like it being a colorless land is too big a cost in a deck with so many green sources, and like it only is making a lot of mana when you're already really ahead usually, you know what I mean? How many times have I hardcasted Archon? A bunch, especially with Mulldrifters in the deck. Like, Mulldrifters let you draw enough cards to, like, hardcast Archon pretty often. I'm just trying to think if I should instant speed this. I don't think I should. Because then I lose the Mulldrifter. Okay, don't know... wait, sorry, we did know one of their cards was Tarmogoyf. Which is the one they discarded. I agree, kid. Actually, I agree that, like, Old School John, no Luris is a pretty strong deck. At Modern right now. I've watched Reed play it a bit and been like really impressed by it, and I agree that the like Old School Jund is a totally viable strategy in Modern, and as someone who you know, does poke fun at the deck from time to time. You know, don't, you know, you know, credit where credit's due. The deck is definitely somewhat viable at the moment. Okay. Guess I'm discarding Grief. Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's obviously not gonna be the exact same deck that you used to play, right? When I say old school Jund is viable, like you're gonna have to play like Grist and Endurance and Ragavan. I think are all really good additions. Like I wouldn't just recommend playing the same deck out of your deck box from 2016, but it definitely has the same feel. And I guess now I'll discard Solitude to Liliana because I can cast the Grief. I might not be able to cast Solitude. Expect you go to 22 lands. Eventually, I take your habit with 21. Yeah, I you know, honestly, I've kind of considered going up to 62 cards, 22 lands in the 4th Mulldrifter, but I don't know. I think that sounds kind of crazy, but I think it makes some sense to me. But I'm relatively happy with the 60 cards. I won the challenge with 21 lands. I'm pretty happy with the list. Obviously, it's always going to be in like a state of flux and changing and stuff, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with 21. All right, I guess I'll flash this back. All right, well, we have to find something at some point. We talked 7 months, go to 62, 21 counts as half a land. That's kind of the idea, right? Because I would really want 21 and a half lands, to be honest. Like 3.5 Mulldrifters. Alright, that is something, and it is, in fact, some point. So, they probably sack the Tarmogoyf so they can Edict the Archon. I guess I could have held that for Mending. But playing lands out does let me hardcast Archons. And then they do have this Raging Ravine. See a 4 Bloodbraid 0 Monkey list from Reed. Yeah, I mean it's later than he's been playing it more recently than just the June list, but yeah, I would recommend playing Ragavan in Jund. They should have sacked Ravine. Oh yeah, that would have been better. We talked through with 7 months. Got a ton of good top decks here. And because we're only on 21 lands, we're destined to only draw spells, right? 3, 4, 5, 11. Yeah, we have 10 lands left in the deck and 20 spells. Not every spell is good, though. We can't hardcast Archon. Okay. Guess I'm just immediately drawing a card. Just dig for another Persist. Okay, not a Persist, but this grabs me an Unburial Rites. I think of Din versus Ravine and Jund. Well, you know, Ravine tapping for 2 colors is super relevant in Jund, which has kind of a shaky mana base as is, you know what I mean? And especially if you're... Oh, they have Ooze! Come on! This is the second time, like, this week I just have been destroyed by the top deck Scavenging Ooze. Oh, come on. They have 2 main deck Endurances and an Ooze. Brutal. They need to eat my Mending. Such an awkward draw. I think I'm just passing so I could draw a land. Oh, sorry, I forgot to update the record. Yeah, the record thing is still broken, unfortunately. We made a bug report on the MTG bot. I don't know if it's broken for everybody. It's definitely broken for me though. They're not firing up Raging Ravine, are they? Okay. So you get hit down to 10. They cast their Ragavan. Land? Might not even be good enough. Damn it. Well, we almost beat. We got through the 2 endurances. The 2 endurances and the skews was not good enough. It's gonna be kind of tough. Tough to fight through all this. Teferis are pretty good against the endurances, and then we have a lot of answers to the oozes too. Just trying to think if I want 4 Solitude. I also kind of want to trim a Mulldrifter Ephemerate. I'm gonna play 1 Grief over the 4th Ephemerate. Let's do this. Scoozin for an Oozin. Do you think with all the graveyard stuff, 1-2 Scoos made him fine in Jund? I don't know. Like I guess like the decks, if you're already playing Endurance, your mana base is more green. Yeah, 1 is probably fine. I don't think I'd recommend 2. I attack you 4 months. Appreciate ya. Leyline isn't as good as Rip. I mean, yeah, yeah, of course. You don't want to bring a Leyline against them. Goldfish brought. We've already talked about this today, Darth Barman, but like, yes, Modern Horizons 2, Modern Horizons 1 are both super format defining sets. I personally don't care what cards are in the format. Like, I don't care what set cards are, what set cards are from the, or sorry, what format cards are from in the format. All I care about is gameplay good. That's literally all I'm concerned with when I am thinking about the format. And right now, I feel like gameplay is really good, so I'm happy. You're of course free to care about like set makeup in Modern, and you're free to care about how the format is, but it's also true, like, oh, I meant to put back the Solitude, dang it. You know, I personally just don't really feel like it matters that much. They also have Nihil Spellbomb, brutal, so I guess I'm taking Spellbomb, Ooze. No, I should leave them. I can leave them with the Spellbomb and Prismatic Ending it, and I can take. Ooh, I guess they'll Inquisition my ending though. Okay. Yeah. I think the format's really good. I wouldn't change too much about it right now. I don't like the way it forces rotation in the format. Yeah, I think that's a totally fine stance to have, right? I think that's a totally fine place to be, saying you don't like how the format changes so much during Modern Horizon sets. I do like it. I do like it when the format has like big shakeups, and it's of course like a huge part of that is my bias as a streamer, right? Where like when things change, like I get to engage with the game in a more like in the way I like to engage with it, where I'm brewing and trying new things and playing new stuff. That's how I like to engage with the game. A lot of people like to build a deck and play it for, you know, years and years and years, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just two different strokes, you know. They might just miss a bunch of land drops. We'll see. Yeah, and we have this conversation a lot. Like, you know, we have this conversation about how like Modern is a very hard format to get into, price-wise, experience-wise. It's just a hard format to get into. We have this conversation all the time, and it's like as long as I've been playing Modern, it's been this way. You know what I mean? It's always been like really, really inaccessible, or not inaccessible. Maybe inaccessible is a little strong, but it's really hard to get into. It's really, really expensive, and that. Maybe that's always going to be a problem. It always has been. So we're slightly behind on this race, right? We could just draw Teferi, Prismatic Ending. They do have an Endurance. I think I'm gonna get Mending, because Mending actually lets me win this race. The Grief versus Tarmogoyf. When I play land, I was holding it for a theoretical Mending, but there's like really, I guess, yeah, I guess they could have land Liliana. I don't know. Oh wow, it's like best draw. I guess I'll attack first. Yeah, inaccessible is definitely relative. I remember when I was like in my early 20s, like I really wanted to play Modern, and it took me so long to actually like buy into a deck because it was really too expensive for me. Being a college student. I don't know, but the thing is, like, we all like, this is like kind of like, we have this conversation a lot. This is almost, it's almost like just a foregone conclusion. Like, yeah, modern's super inaccessible, and like, but we just don't. I don't know, like, we need to say this every single time, right? Because it's not only true now, it's always been true, and I don't know that there's like any changing it either. At least not here over on Twitch.tv. No preview card, Inspiring Spike. You know what I mean? Okay, those aren't too bad. Yeah, a lot more guy here every day now. We're now co-streaming. Wanted to play Modern for a long time. Slowly simple pieces of prowess. Wanted to kill the deck. Jeskai prowess has actually been doing pretty well lately. Atos. It's not exactly the same, but Jeskai prowess has been like a pretty underrated deck in my opinion. But I'll also say that like I'll also say that like if you remember the pre-MH2 metagame, like Heliod and prowess were so dominant. And that metagame was, like, a lot less exciting than this one. You know what I mean? Why not keep a Mending? They have Endurance. Well, we have Teferi, so they have, like, they can't respond to Persist with Endurance. They have to main phase it. And they might main phase it. I don't know. They don't. Okay. Wow, what a top deck. So the last card is Endurance. I feel like I should draw step Persist the Grief. Necromentia. Okay, you can have that. A weird game. Why are they playing Necromentia? Should Thoughtseize do modern challenger decks? I don't know. Maybe. Alright, there's no it is not reasonable for them to name Fatal Push here. So I'm not gonna push in response. Although I guess they get to see the push, so they name Archon of Cruelty. Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, maybe challenger decks would be a good idea. I mean, I am in favor of any way to make Modern more accessible and inexpensive. But it's also like, when we talk about how Modern is as a format, I don't think that like bringing up how expensive it is really that productive, because it is always an expensive format. You know what I mean? It's like, it never hasn't been. It seems like it always will be. And so like, maybe that's it. Maybe it's fine criticism, but it just like, it feels like we talk about it all the time, and it just, I don't know like where to go from. I don't know where to go from there when we you know continue to say it's very expensive and this is a criticism of the format, and like it's totally valid, but I just don't know if there's like any conversation to have beyond that. Okay, they can Prismatic Ending this. Since it's not rotating, it should be more expensive. I mean, I personally think that Magic cards across the board are way too expensive. I think that like having $1,000 paper deck is ridiculous. It just like I think that the cards should be a lot more accessible than they are. Ludafishy, thank you for the 3 months. Appreciate you. Like I personally think that like I'd like to see like $50 to like $80 standard decks and like $200 to $400 like modern decks. It would be like the range that I feel like would be more reasonable. But, you know, I'm just a guy with a webcam. I'm not making any decisions. And I just don't think that's ever going to happen. Ludafishy, yeah, pod stream tomorrow. Yeah, stream is not starting at the normal time tomorrow. We're playing some Birthing Pod with Caleb D. Dude, that's the best draw. Let's go. Yikes. Yikes. Maybe ungo. Yeah, Harlan, I'm on the same page. I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting at, right? Like, you're a viewer who comes in sometimes and sees this conversation a lot. I'm also here every time we have this conversation, and that's what I'm kind of trying to get at. Is like, we've just kind of talked this point to death. And not only here, it's like this point about card prices being too expensive has just been talked to death, and it's not very productive. So that's also what I'm trying to get at here too. I guess I'm blocking. I know that I am kind of light on threats because they necromanced my Archons. So in my deck left, I have 2 Solitudes, 1 Mulldrifter, 2 Persist, 2 Rites. It's not that much. Think Modern likes good combo decks? No, not at all. Modern has plenty of good combo decks. I'm playing a combo deck right now. You're gonna win this game? I think we might win this game. Dude, Mulldrifter, it's so freaking good. How can you complain about the modern format when Mulldrifter is just an amazing card in the format? How are they at 3? We hit them with we turn 1 Grief Ephemerated and hit them like 4 times with it. Is it worth it to pick up Archons? Worth it is always relative to you. You know what I mean? What's worth it? You know, I can't determine what's worth it to you. You'll have to evaluate that yourself. But Archon's a really good card. Yeah. Mulldrifter rotated in with Image too. This is so freaking fun. That is true. We are casting Divination against Jund. Happy birthday, Mr. 33. Can we get some happy birthdays in chat? Okay, that was pretty cool. I think I'm gonna run it back. I don't know. They're playing Nihil Spellbomb, Endurance, Scavenging Ooze, Necromancia. They are prepared. They are ready to beat this matchup. But they didn't. But maybe they should have Necromancered Mulldrifter, huh? Oh man, opponents, they're so prepared though. They've mulliganed to 6. I think I'm gonna mulligan this too. Yeah, this hand's way better. What are you putting back though? Probably just has to be the push, but I wish I didn't have to put the push back. Isn't Torpor Orb really the card versus me? I mean, Orb is I wouldn't say it's the card, but it's a good card against me, yeah. I mean, this deck does have Prismatic Ending and Teferi for it. And you can also just attack with Archon, too. But Orb also stopping your elementals is pretty important, too. Is the third land unimportant? I think so. It's especially because like there's a good chance that we want to go Unmarked Grave plus Persist on turn 4. To like play around Endurance. Like we do that after we have Teferi in play. Can't you evoke them and they won't die? Well, it stops like it's not, Mulldrifter is a 3-mana 2/2, and like you have to like you're 2-for-1ing yourself to get a 3/2 in play. It's not that good against Jund, but it is something. It's undeniably something. How do I feel about Pull from Eternity as a 2 of? Completely unplayable. Way too narrow, I think. All right, I guess we're waiting a turn. Guess we're waiting longer than that. Maybe not that much longer, huh? So we're gonna plus this, and hopefully we can minus on Spellbomb next turn, and then Unmarked Grave Persist. Damn it. Right, need a Prismatic Ending, I guess. Let's hardcast the Mulldrifter next turn. I'm also pretty happy if they sack the Spellbomb there. Can only afford the Solitude, 2 Snapcaster viable. I'm sorry that you want to put Snapcaster in every deck. I do too. Don't play Snapcaster though. I would play the fourth Mulldrifter and the 22nd land. But I also just want to put Mulldrifter in every single deck. Or sorry, Snapcaster in every deck, but it's not very good in this list. But I want to make sure that you feel heard. How flexible is that versus graveyard hit? Well, you've got a lot of discard for cards like Endurance and I guess you have discards in Teferi against Endurance. You have Prismatic Ending and Teferi against more permanent-based graveyard hate. You have Grief Thoughtseize, Prismatic Ending, Endurance are all ways to fight graveyard hate. Yeah, I think just discarding the Persist there makes sense. If they want to sack the Spellbomb here, it's probably fine with me. I think they're just going to let it get bounced to their hand, though. Okay. They only have 4 minutes on the clock. It's been a long match. Man, okay, so I guess we just go Ending on the Spellbomb. And then they'll nuke my graveyard. They don't nuke the graveyard. Alright, well, kind of free for the bean, I guess. What's the biggest sleeper deck in Modern at the moment? I don't know. I'm not a content machine like that, I guess. But, you know, that is all I do on the channel, is try to play and find play undervalued decks. Do a lot of brewing. Stuff like this. That's really all I try to do is try to answer that question. So like basically anything you see me playing is something I think is a little undervalued. Okay, so they did draw a blocker for the Solitude. The Liliana can ultimate next turn. Any room for Witch's Cottage? I don't think so. Your mana's already like not great. Do not do donation decks. Not going to do them anytime soon, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure just keep the lands here. You know, they don't have any graveyard hate in play anymore, so I've got a lot of good top decks. I think the Elver Prince of New Eldrazi is probably at some point. Is the also deck gonna be posted on YouTube? Yeah, it's gonna be posted on YouTube. I don't know when. I have an editor that uploads everything, so it's just kind of whenever he gets around to it. Which is it's usually like just a few days after I stream with it. Dash Ragavan. Well, we can Prismatic Ending the Endurance. Let's see what they hit here. Unmarked Grave. Okay, it seems like they don't have anything to get there. White, blue, black. I don't really like Malakir Rebirth. Thank you, Ragavan, for getting the Courtyard off the top of my library. Big draw step here. Yikes. Okay, good guy Ragavan again. Okay, fair enough. They're cycling the spell bomb. I guess they're worried about their clock. I feel like a minute 30 seconds is plenty of time though. Oh hell yeah, let's go. That's a great draw. Bolts me. Oh no, opponent. Are there any good Wasteland Strangle decks? I don't think so. Sorry, maybe. But usually how I start my brews or start playing decks, it's like, I think that this is good, so I'm going to play this, rather than, I like Wasteland Strangler, I'm going to try to play Wasteland Strangler. You know what I mean? I have one card left. Could be another Ragavan. It's a Tarmogoyf, which is a 6/7. Okay. Huge draw step. Let's go! Oh my gosh, what a top deck. If we win this matchup against the Endurance Nile Spellbomb Scavenging Ooze deck, it's gonna be a bit too free for the bean. I'm gonna hold the Persist. But it hits me with the GGs. we advance to 2-0. It's like I'm really in tune with the format, so I'm able to successfully brew in it. And if I wanted to like master a different format, I think eventually I'd start be able. I'm gonna keep this against an opposing Lurrus. I don't think I'd keep this if they didn't reveal Lurrus. You know, yeah, I would have to be, if I was gonna like switch to Legacy or Pioneer or whatever, I would have to spend time learning and familiarizing myself with the format more. I did board versus Jund Saga. I usually cut the Griefs, and I bring in the 4th Prismatic Ending, the Stony Silence is the 2 pushes, the 3rd Teferi, and I cut the 4th Prismatic Ending, and sometimes the 4th Unmarked Grave, sometimes the 4th Archon. Put it with no white mana. Solitude Ephemerate is so good in this matchup. How do you with the mill matchup as Reanimator? It's felt unwinnable every time you played it. So the Chalice, so if you main deck Chalice of the Void, there's a version of the deck that main decks Chalice. That version's actually pretty good. You should mulligan really aggressively to Chalice, and then they can't surgical you, and then you're pretty favored. This version has a really bad mill matchup, but it's also like, mill's a really bad matchup, just take the L. You know, you'll still beat it some amount of the time. In fact, your plan against them with this deck is to grief and Thoughtseize their surgicals and hope they don't top deck one against you, which is not that bad of a plan. But you know, just don't be obsessed with trying to win every single matchup. It's a bad one, especially when you're playing this deck. When you're playing a Reanimator deck, this is a combo deck. You're gonna have bad matchups. You're gonna lose games to Graveyard Hate. You're gonna lose games to the main deck Surgical Extraction. It is what it is. Yeah, I imagine this is probably oh, they didn't get Springleaf Drum? Okay, so they found white mana. And they found Esper Sentinel. So we're just gonna get decks out of these 3. GGI works. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like I felt the pressure of the clock when you select that Nile spell bomb. We've all been there. I'm supposed to stack my triggers differently here so that I can. So I could have exiled the Sentinel before I ephemerated, but it doesn't really matter the way the mana shapes up here. And this is definitely why Hammer Time is less popular than it's been. Solitude, Ephemerate is so great against them. I don't want to beat all the matchups, just one of your planning off ones. Yeah. That's fair. But my plan against Mill is to Thoughtseize and Grief their Surgicals and hope they don't top deck another one. And that's the plan. It's a good draw. Yeah, Solitude's so good. Getting wrecked by Solitude on Yawgmoth. Any suggestions for game against it? You can play a Spellskite in the 75. That may be your best option. You can play like Blossoming Defense. It's a little deep. I kind of want to draw step, reanimate Grief. Should I use the Persist or should I use the Rites? I think I'll just use the Rites. We still have the pitch Solitude up if things get a little desperate here. Cranial Plating, Midnight Shadow Spear. Snag that plating. Volcanic Armada, 3 months. Is Hornet Queen a good range spell? Target with 1 Yavimaya. No, I don't think so. I really the mana base in this deck is not perfect. Like Esper doesn't have great mana. So like putting a Yavimaya in the deck sounds like kind of nauseating to me. I don't know if that's a serious suggestion. And like Hornet Queen's good against Hammer Time and like maybe only Hammer Time. But they can still be with Shadow Spear, and Hammer Time is already a pretty good matchup, so I don't think so. Alright, I'm gonna send in with both here. You're trolling? Yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes. I kinda, it was a pretty good one, honestly. The best trolls are the ones where I can't really tell. The best trolls are the ones where I just have no idea if this is satire or, you know, or not. They conceded? Alright. Gonna bring in the 2 pushes. The Stony Silence is the Emissary, the Ending. I usually cut the Griefs in this matchup, and then 1 Archon, 1 I waffle back and forth between cutting the Ephemerate and the 3rd Teferi, and then I usually end up going, let's keep the 4 Ephemerates even though we're cutting Griefs, where Ephemerate plus Solitude is just too good against them to cut on Ephemerates. But I consider Sunset Revelry as a fine one of it's fine, but your burn matchup is already pretty favorable. Or maybe I might be overvaluing the burn matchup because it's more favorable with the other versions of Reanimator than this one. I have found this version to be like a little worse against them, but I still think that you have a good burn matchup. So playing a dedicated burn sideboard card like Revelry, which really doesn't come in anywhere else, makes me not that interested in it. Yeah, I was just saying that about it. We could cut 1 Ephemerate, but Ephemerate plus Solitude is just so good. I think I want to keep them all. But usually I'll consider cutting an Ephemerate if I cut the Solitudes or Griefs. Yeah, we've considered Ashen Rider as a one of. I think it's not terrible, especially now that it's a black-white card, but I'm not. If I wanted to have 5 main deck reanimation targets, I would consider it more seriously. But I'm not that interested in 5. Have you ever played Yorion and Commander? No, I haven't. All Mulldrifters. Okay, we'll keep this. We'll put back Persist, and I guess we have to put back Solitude. This would be a much better 6-card hand, keeping the Solitude. Solitude to the rescue. Don't play Rotting Regisaur. This deck doesn't have like that many cards that are good to discard, so and it also like is trying to play a card advantage game with Mulldrifter. Can this be a Yorion deck? I've seen people build this deck as a Yorion deck. I really dislike building this deck as a Yorion deck. This deck is trying to capitalize on nut draws. This deck is trying to capitalize on having good synergy and having fast draws. And so trying to turn this into a Yorion deck is I think a big mistake. Ooh, now we have Solitude Ephemerate. Though I would prefer to Ephemerate the Archon. This is good for us. It's good that we get to persist the Archon before they can tutor Graveyard Hate with Saga. I really don't want to discard the other Ephemerate. I have to though, I guess. If we consider Griselbrand as Reanimator. Well, Persist and Unmarked Grave both specify non-legendary, and they do so like pretty specifically with cards like Griselbrand and Iona in mind. And that makes you need to play these kind of cards or these kind of cards instead, or just specifically Archon. Archon is just so good. I have no clue to play for Modern for the Invitational. A lot of people don't know either, which is I think a good thing. I think that when you can go into a tournament like the SCG Invitational and just say I have no idea what to play. I think that typically, in my opinion, is a sign of a good format, where there are so many options and all of them seem pretty reasonable and nothing seems like clearly this amazing choice. Yeah. Ninja Guy 2 months? I guess I'm going to Ephemerate after they make the token, because if they just don't begin a turn with a creature in play, they can't really do anything. Yeah, Uro Kroxa. Yeah, we were talking about Kroxa and Uro talking to their parents, where Kroxa's trying to be, I guess they could have Path Exile here, but I don't like playing around it in this spot. And I guess Archon is Uro and Kroxa's parent. I didn't get to watch it in the challenge. What do you think of Doomwink's deck? I like Doomwink's deck a lot. I think it's really good. I think that Doomwink's deck is the best way to build Rhinos, maybe forever. Honestly, it's just like you increase your consistency, you diminish the turns you draw Rhinos. You're better at fighting hate pieces because you have access to Yorion. It just feels like the best way to build the deck. Big fan. But you could, yeah, I thought Doomwink cut the Teamer Ascendancy. Alright, a Stylish Ephemerate for the win. We advanced to 3-0 on the day. Deck's still pretty cracked, I guess. Hammer Time is a really good matchup. My opponent insulted me in Italian, and they also, I just saw the GG, so I gave him GG back. That's okay. Would I consider one of Tri-Lands to make Ending better? Only if Leyline was super popular, but it really only sees play in this deck. Did you play the mirror? I don't think I played the mirror in the challenge. Alright, I guess for those of you wondering how I approach the mill matchup, we get to learn here. Could be Merfolk, I guess. I don't love pitching the Archon when I have the Mending here, but I think we have to. If Leyline is popular, would a Fragmentize be better than an off-color Triumph? Well, no, Prismatic Ending is still just like amazing because it hits like Scavenging Ooze, it hits Rest in Peace, and it just hits everything. Okay, it is Merfolk, which is very good news for us. Okay, so I think I'm going to take... They have 2 Silvergill Adepts, which is pretty good for them. Yeah, I mean, I would have rather maybe would have rather Mendinged, but let me take one of their gods here and then see what their hand looks like next turn. Could we have Vindicate the board? You could. I've done it in the past. There's just not that much big mana right now, so I'm not as interested in Vindicate. But it is definitely an option. It's certainly something I would recommend keeping in mind. So they have Lord, Adept, Regery. So I'm taking the Trickster. Main phase Mending. Discard Archon. Discard Solitude. Not 100% sure about that one. Discard Mulldrifter. Well, I want to dig pretty aggressively for the Persist. And like I'm not that interested in pitching Solitude here, but if I draw Ephemerate, then I'll really wish I had kept the Solitude. Pretty sure I'm block here. That's the hand is Adept, Master, Mystery card. Probably have to draw Persist here. Do the fourth Adept? Or just the third one? I do think this matchup's pretty good though, so maybe we can just win the sideboard games, huh? And maybe we'll top deck Persist like a pro. I'm trying to think. I take 8 plus 6. Yeah. Very dead. Okay, so let's bring in the Prismatic Ending, the Emissary, the 2 Fatal Pushes, the Stony Silences. Cutting the Griefs, cutting the 4th Ephemerate, cutting the 4th Archon. I think Merfolk's pretty underplayed at the moment. Could be seen more playing to bay for. Yeah, them saying GGs after their Italian did kind of imply more playful banter, you know. You think Merfolk is good? Yeah, I think Merfolk is a playable and underplayed deck at the moment. It has a lot of really good tools. It has a lot of like really adaptable elements. It's not a deck that people are really expecting at the moment, I feel. It's a deck I like. I like Merfolk. How disruptive is Merfolk? They have access to Counterspell, Force of Negation, a lot of cheap like artifact disruptive elements like Relic and stuff. So they have Spreading Seas. Is Aetherfall that important to show off? Their graveyard hate is going to be artifact based. They're going to have Relic of Progenitus, which is why we're playing the Stony Silences. But it also does hit Vial, right? Yeah, Stony's for their graveyard hate. Merfolk streamed win. I love Nikachi too much to stream Merfolk, I think. I don't know, I think Merfolk is underplayed, but I mean you hear me say this kind of stuff a lot, right? Like I love Doomwake's Yorion Rhinos list. I think Yawgmoth is good. I think Merfolk is good. I think Humans with Sentinel is underplayed. I think that Jeskai Prowess has a lot of room to explore and is also underplayed. You hear me say this kind of stuff a lot, but like I just want to be working on deck lists that I've been putting together, and I want to be working on, you know, I don't know. I just want to keep working on my own stuff because that's always been the focus of the channel, is me building decks, and I don't want that to get too lost in the sauce and just end up just playing the deck I always think is the best, which I think is way more boring than working on deck lists. But if I have ideas for these kinds of decks, obviously I will spend some time. All right, let's dodge a Force of Negation here, huh? Pog. When I grab Serra's, they do have some outs to it. They probably have Brazen Borrower in their deck, so I'm not confident that Emissary is just a 1-card win the game here. So I'm gonna get the Archon, which is, you know, if it does get bounced or removed, gets a lot of value first. Hey Esther. Yeah, I don't know what happened to my other basic lands. I had the other ones that I was playing earlier. Maybe I guess I sold them on accident. But I don't remember selling anything. I like the sweater a lot. Esther got me the sweater. Everybody say thank you, Esther, for the sweater. It's very comfortable. Shout out to Costco for the sweater. Use some help tuning a Merfolk list without forcing it in Chalice. Surely Nikachu has like a million Merfolk lists, right? That meet that qualification. And we did play around Borrower pretty well, huh? Played around Borrower to the best of our ability here. This is gross. Ephemerate Archon in response to Petty Theft. Kind of unfair. I guess I'm gonna ending the file here. Yeah, just head to toe in Costco. Let's go. Do you think Boutron is playable? I don't understand Mono Boutron. I don't really know what they're doing over there. At this point, I'm too afraid to ask. Okay, that's pretty good. We got one card left. It's a Lord, of course. We got a Mulldrifter. We got a Ephemerate for our Mulldrifter too. How do you think Esper Ephemerate holds up? I haven't been liking it that much lately with like the presence of like the 4-color Yorion decks. Like those decks are pretty popular and they're really tough for the Mentor deck to beat. But I could definitely see it making a comeback. 1 mana, draw 4. Literally better than Ancestral Recall here. I guess I should bounce a Lord with Teferi, so they have to discard it with the Archon to the Archon. Didn't you consider Ephemerate Mulldrifter, discard Archon there? Well, I was thinking I wanted to block and then Ephemerate. I guess my life total is pretty high. Maybe it was better. Have I seen Leyline of Sanctity lately? No, not really. Not really. Thank you, Esther. So more of a meta call to try and fit more pushes main. I don't know why you would want more pushes main. You have a really good Hammer Time matchup as is. Ragavan is also not that popular right now. That's something I feel like I don't hear a lot of people talk about right now. It's like Ragavan is not a popular card in Modern at the moment, which is really interesting to me. Let's keep this. I should either put back the 3rd land or the Solitude. I think on the mulligan I'll put back Solitude. Chalice on 1, interesting. So Chalice on 1 makes me think they don't have Relic in their deck. I don't know. Chalice on 1 is only stops Ephemerate though. Again, try to play around Borrower a little bit. Alright, so if the last 2 cards are Force of Negation blue card, we could be in some trouble. Yeah, I know my basics are ugly, I'm sorry. I do make an effort to have nice basics. I forgot this morning. Kind of a late night. Athena last night did not want to go to sleep. She's usually really good about going to bed, but last night she was like, I want to stay up and play all night. Okay, they do have Force of Negation. So we can draw a land for rights, we can draw another Persist. Down to 5 life though. Big top deck. So I evoke Mulldrifter. Solitude the Master, and then I'm not dead. But I didn't draw a land. They have the Trickster for lethal. All right, we fell to the fish. Fell to the fish. On the draw against blue-white, I think I have to keep this hand. Do you need to draw land? Is considered not worth it for the turn 2 persist? I mean, it's super duper inconsistent to turn 2 persist. Alright, no lands in top 3. Bummer, bummer. There's like 0% chance that Persist resolves here. I think I'm just gonna Unmarked Grave for our rights. Although if Indra gets the Deluge here, it's not that good. Obviously, we need to draw a little bit better. But I draw Blue Source, we can maybe start to pressure their counterspells with Teferi. We'll see. Well, Grief is good if we had another black card, but our draw's been super awkward this game. This is maybe karma for me beating blue-white 3 times in the challenge. But I don't really think blue-white's like one of our best matchups or anything, but I think I've been running pretty well against it lately. Only 2 counterspells in hand. But I don't think we can beat the rest of it. Okay, let's go to game 2. Where we bring in the Teferi, the Thoughtseizes. We cut the Solitudes, the 4th Ephemerates. Usually cut the 4th Unmarked Grave too. It also bring in the 4th Ending for Rest in Peace. Yeah, you could play a Priest in the sideboard, or a Priest over the Rites, but I think I like the second Rites more. It's the same list posted 5 days ago on my deck command. It should be, yeah, this is the list I won the challenge with on Saturday boxing. The same 75. Great, let's keep this. Will I play Esper Mentor again? At some point, yeah. At some point, yeah. Not sure when. Alright, let's take the Force of Negation. So we can resolve Teferi. I love the pathway. Then it's Unmarked Grave for Archon of Cruelty. I won the challenge? Yeah, I won the challenge on Saturday with this exact 75. Streamed it too. Didn't play the Torpor Orb, which definitely is Yendrick saying that he drew Counterspell, but I'm just jamming. Yeah, I don't believe you, Yendrick. I'm going to plus because we know about the Torpor Orb, and they also can't ending the Teferi next turn. Let's go! Okay, game 3. When the challenge video drop? I don't know if there's going to be a challenge video. It just depends on my editor if he wants to upload it. But it's like way more work for him to edit that. You guys want to keep this on the draw? Probably not. Maybe if this was a dual land. Let's go to 5. Alright, this hand's better. I guess we're putting back. I think I need to keep the ending. I think I have to put back second Mulldrifter to Teferi. But the ending to deal with like Rest in Peace or Orb on turn 2 feels too important. Is there a specific reason for the one of Checkland? I don't know. I have like the amount of fetches and dual lands and basics I want, right? And then I have the courtyards, and then I like as my fixers because I have white sources and black sources on turn 1, and so let's evoke Mulldrifter here. And so beyond that, I'm interested in having like one more dual land in the deck, and because I have all like I don't have any blue dual lands, I want one of them to be blue. And so I've got the Glacial Fortress. Could be Drowned Catacombs too. I think Mentor Ornithopter is competitive enough to buy remain relative resistant meta shift. I don't know how. Like I don't think it's one that's going to remain incredibly resilient to meta shifts. I think that in fact it's even like already kind of shifted to the point where it's not as good as it was, where it's not very good against the 4-color ephemerate decks. I found. So yeah, I don't think it's gonna be good in every metagame, but if it's the deck you really like and you really want to play, like you can still play it and it's gonna be at least somewhat viable, I imagine. Deluge, Force of Negation, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Solitude. Yikes. What a hand. I think I have to take the Jace. Then I'm gonna persist my Mulldrifter. I'm thrilled if my opponent uses Force here. Ephemerate's best draw. Let's go. Gonna do this main phase to see if they want to force this. Awesome. Force pitching Memory Deluge. Deal. Deal. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, we get to Grief the Solitude though. It's a good draw. We did Mold to 5. So Yinjik's going to castle instead of Kihira. Makes sense. Should probably Mending here. Best draws are like another Ephemerate. Oh my gosh. The value. I guess I attack, then Ephemerate the Mulldrifter. Could also maybe wait to see what they do with the castle. And if they keep a card on top, I could draw step Ephemerate the Grief. 2 cards on bottom, 1 on top. Yeah, let's draw step Ephemerate the Grief. And then rebound on the Mulldrifter. This is bad if they got like exactly Solitude. No! Or Counterspell. Yeah, maybe that was just terrible, actually. I'm kind of leaning towards that one being not a great line. But rewarded here. No, yeah, Rest in Peace doesn't stop rebound. Okay, so they've got a card in hand. I'll probably bounce the Grief and replay it here. Alright, we can menace attack right through Kihira. Alright, so 4-1, only falling to the Mighty Merfolk. Deck's still feeling really good. I'm gonna play one more, at least. And then I have some more fiddles to bend too. Let's see, opened a Midnight Hunt, Windswept Heath, Porphyry Nodes, Bruna.